Welcome to the Power Airwaves, the Power Manufacturing Solutions podcast series where we talk about manufacturing issues that impact you. Hey, this is Travis Stirewalt, and welcome to another edition of Power Airwaves, the best industrial-based podcast on YouTube and on the airwaves. Today I have a special guest. It's my boss, Kevin Averette.
Don't say that.
So not only do I get to interview him, I get to get judged at the same time. No, Kevin and I have a great relationship. Kevin is actually, what is your title now? It's
so operations and competency leader.
Okay.
So I have responsibility for some of the competencies that fall under the assemble move code, and then also I deal quite a bit with operations, whether it be warehouse, inventory, IT, and some of the logistics type stuff. So yeah.
All right. So get a couple things out of the way here that I need to talk about. One, if you have a question for Kevin or myself, or if you have a question about something you hear in this podcast, 1-800-334-1001. If you are watching this on YouTube, you don't really have time to watch the whole thing and you want to listen to it, you can actually go anywhere that you can download, listen to podcasts, and whether it be Apple, Google, you know the list, Stitcher, all the other ones. You can download that, listen to it in the car, listen to it on your back porch, whatever you want to do. So our main website for AirPower is airpower-usa.com. Goodness gracious, there's tons of resources on that website. Airpowerlive.com, where you can access 200 plus videos from AirPower on training videos, product demos, information, industry-based information. I think that's about does it, except for the web store. Web store is now live. It's been live for a while now and gaining speed. Shop.airpower-usa.com is where you go for that. And then, of course, all over social media. So pick your favorite channel. And yes, we'll probably end up doing TikTok too. We keep getting asked about that, but we'll figure something out here. But Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the above. All right, Kevin. So you and I obviously interact quite a bit. I wanted to do this podcast with you because I think we're unique in the market, the way we set our organization up, the way we go into the sales channel and support in the market.
I agree.
Especially as far as the way we do it so broadly and strong. Okay, it's one of our biggest attributes, I think. Being a salesperson myself in previous roles, I sell every day anyway, but being 100% account manager with other companies over the years and always being in sales, it can be kind of daunting when you're representing so many different things. And our account managers have we say, they got 1,000 things that they can they can sell.
Yeah.
Products and solutions, right?
Yeah.
So having been out on that island myself, not having that real good access to industry level pros in your same organization that back you up, it's very daunting. So for our team here, it's a well thought out approach to market, having specialists, the application specialists and technical specialists. What do we consider an application specialist versus tech specialist? Or
yeah, sure. Yeah, so application specialist is really someone that's actually going out in the field day to day, supporting that account manager, and they're looking at the application, hence the name, right? So they're taking that application and they're trying to apply the product knowledge that they have of various different vendors that we have to taking that product to that application and creating that solution, right?
Okay.
So that's where we came up with the name of application specialist. And like you said, having been an account manager at Air Power, it's a little daunting. It is is a good word to use because especially early on, I was caught many times saying I don't know the answer, and that's okay, but I know who to call.
Yep.
Right. And if I know who to call, then that kind of gives me at ease as an account manager. And it's not like somebody that I think that might answer the phone, or I'm not sure which manufacturer I should call or something like that. It's a colleague, right? It's an Air Power guy that's got your best interest and his best interest is mine, is to help you find that solution, right? So those application specialists are in the field every day, generally, making those sales calls, joint sales calls, not always the first sales call, but follow-ups, and when we start to get into the nitty-gritty, they start to dial into it with them. So,
like from perspective, it's not so much like account manager calling and saying, I'm in a jam and I need to figure out what I need to do here. Here's the data that I have that I've collected.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. We need to figure out a solution, and how do we get from point A to point B, right?
Yeah, and in different cases, sometimes it's an account manager that's saying, "Hey, I got this much information. I'm not sure which direction to head, but I know this is what I've got. Right? This is the problem. This is what they're trying to accomplish, whatever that might be." And in some situations, it may be an account manager that's almost looking for like a second opinion, right?
Yeah, another set of eyes.
They've got the information. They're like, "Hey, I'm pretty sure I'm headed this direction." But before I head this direction, let me just bounce this off of somebody that does this twice as much as I do,
right?
And is more focused on this on the day to day to make sure I'm headed in the right direction and kind of be a sounding board. So
we always used to refer to that as having another set of eyeballs would really help.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then you mentioned that we have different competencies.
Mm-hmm.
We call them assemble, move, and coat. And we were laughing because we both have it behind us.
Right here.
So,
we got our cheat sheets.
So if we mess up, you can just read along.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just give us a basic description of assemble, move, and coat, and why we chose those monikers as our
our so we wanted something, why we chose them, right? I was a part of the rebrand, and we were just trying to find something that really resonated. Every company has 3-letter acronyms, 4-letter acronyms for all kinds of stuff that nobody knows what they mean if you're external to that. And I mean, even companies have glossaries that have all these acronyms, and we're like, this doesn't resonate with our customer. They could care less about all these acronyms that we used to use. And what resonates? Well, they manufacture stuff, and then in that process, what are the actions that are taken? Well, they're assembling something, they're moving something, or they're coding something. And if they're doing those things, we could probably help you. So we were like, okay, when we looked at our product groups, or our even our market verticals, or when we looked at the teams that we internally created, we kind of merged all that into that assemble, move, and code. And some competencies, traditional old competencies have code, and some have assemble, move, and code, and some have assemble and move, and all those things. But if we dive into each one, assemble, you can see the definition there, right? When you're assembling something, there's all different types of ways you can do that. You can bolt it together, you can weld it together, you can glue it together with structural adhesives, different processes like that. There's even processes, you may be assembling 2 pieces, but you need to put foam inside before you do that, right? And all that's a part of that assembly process. So you can do those things. And then with move, move is probably our most broad subject, right? Because we're moving liquids, we're moving powders, and we're making solids liquid, or putting them under pressure so that we can get them in a fluid motion, right? And get them from point A to point B. So we do transfer, of fluids. We do metering of fluids. We do all different types of things with stuff that's in different states, whether it's solid, liquid, or powder, right? We move air, right, with compressors and compress air and piping and all those types of things. So move is pretty broad in just that aspect. Then you can think about it from ergonomic movement.
Yep, moving heavy loads.
So, maybe a point A to point B, and we got this huge crane bridge system above head that we're using hoist, things of that nature for. It may be something like a ergonomic movement, like our levitate suits. It may be ergonomic lift assist, so that it's a repetitive motion. So we try to take that out, and we either replace it with a robot or we replace it with a device that takes that repetitive movement out of it for the operator.
The loading and unloading, the
Loading and
Prestos
unloading,
thing.
exactly. Yeah, when you have Prestos, the bin unloaders and the tilts and the upenders and things of that nature. And then you've got ergonomics for people as well, for like matting and things of that nature. So it's a very broad spectrum of what we're moving, right?
And growing with air power.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and then the last one, coat, is really kind of where we started, and a lot of the coat people that have that process have the assemble and move, right? And so we kind of grew in that, and that's kind of some of the history of air power. But coat, at the end of the day, you're putting a protective coating or something that is to change the color or to or enhance the product that you're working with,
or functionality,
or functionality, right? Trying to make it smooth. You may be putting Teflon on something, right? Or that's a common application for something that you don't even necessarily see, but it's for functionality. To your point. With that, we're doing the powder coats, we're doing the liquid finishing, and every part of that process. Before we coat something, we want to prep it. Well, we use a lot of tools to do that, so sanding and grinding and things of that nature. We also have to wash it to make sure we have a good adhesion when we apply that coat. So it's a truly broad, and where we've probably developed out a lot of our solutions over history is that coat process. But even in that coat process, we move things with conveyors, right? So they overlap and intermingle, and that's not by mistake, right? So
Well, we talked about in other podcasts. We talked about how this company got started, and back with the to leave unnamed version of pump.
Right.
You're welcome, Dan. I will leave it out of here.
Yeah.
But that one really fell under move.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
So this company really got its ground, its feet in the move category.
Yeah, we were selling a lot of pumps and a lot of valves and cylinders that were moving things.
Yeah, and then move translates to the need to what do we do after we move it? Well, we're going to use it to coat.
That's right.
Because this area that we're based out of in High Point, the corporate headquarters was all about furniture.
Absolutely.
So our move. I never really thought about it, but Move is actually where this company began.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, we sell booths. Well, what are we doing? We're controlling the movement of air.
That's right.
Right? And, not to forget filters. We got to put a plug for the
I'm
filters.
an application specialist as well. So,
we're moving air through a filter to catch particulate, right? They intertwine so much, and generally the assembly process is after the coating because they want to paint it and then put it together, right? And they all intertwine because you got to maybe pre-assemble some things and then coat it, and in some processes you coat it and then assemble it, right? And everywhere in between is movement, right?
Absolutely. So let's take it a step further. So we've talked about assemble, move, and coat. Well, no, let's go back.
Okay.
Let's talk about how our specialists fall into those categories.
Sure.
We just honored. We just had our huge sales meeting.
Right.
But it was actually unique. We're going to put the pictures up while we do this, but let's talk about those different teams.
Yeah.
So we've got assemble, move, and coat are the three primaries. We've got application specialists. So talk about our team in assemble.
Absolutely, yeah. So our assemble team, which really focuses mostly on assemble and move, those guys, we've got 7 guys in that crew. They're mainly focused on, vendors like IR, Gorbel, Harrington, Clico, where they're, bolting and fastening, or they're moving with a hoist or something along those lines. They're not necessarily focused on the fluids as much, if that makes sense. But those guys, we've got 3 guys that are really focused on the assemble process, and they have coverage throughout our footprint. And then we've got 2 guys that are focused on really the picking up and moving. You want to pick it and place it, or do you want to create a custom device? You just want to get to the hook. You want to do a custom handling device for a unique product, and anywhere in between. Right, and maybe a crane bridge system or a jib, or very complex or very simple. Right?
You just hit a key term that triggered me. So the unique process.
Mm-hmm.
I was just in Atlanta. I'll leave everybody's names out of here, companies out, but I was just in Atlanta not too long ago where the account manager and I were working at a plant, and he had just had we were there, and somebody started talking about something, and he was like, we do material handling, and we can get things. And they're like, well, this is what we need. And I mean, like that, we had our one of those three in there trying to come up with a solution. And
I mean, when you're picking and placing, I mean, you know, it could be anything from something as complex as an engine that has no flat surfaces and all those things. A lot of times it's already coated, so you got to move it very carefully and delicately with anti-marring and you know, things of that nature. And sometimes it's as simple as it has a eyelet bolt in it, and you just got to hook it and move it, right? And anywhere in between, right? So those guys do a really good job with that. And then behind those 5 that are really in the field, we briefly talked about technical specialists. You know, we have kind of guys that are just product knowledge experts, probably the best word I can come up with, right? That have just been in the industry, have so much experience. You know, in this case, you know, I'm thinking about like a Mike Justice, James Stanley for the assembly team that are behind those guys, and you know, just creating that another layer of support that they can bounce stuff off of, even as application specialists, and they're kind of a support team for those specialists that are out there in the field as well.
So you talk about guys like that, you know, it's almost like the savant level. Like you can throw them anything, and they'll be like, yeah, we can do that. You know.
Absolutely. So
let's
that's
move
the
from
assembly team, you know, and they do that assemble and move, and then you want to move to the AFT team.
Yes.
Which is the old acronym. I apologize. It's ingrained in the head, right? Where they're really looking at movement as well, right? But they're very much a part of the assembly process, because those are the guys that are figuring out how to pump these million centipoise structural adhesives that we deal with that not a lot of people know how to pump. And they're taking RAM units, and they're taking you know, high ratio pumps and getting that fluid into motion, right? By putting it under pressure, and so that we can dispense it, meter it, maybe even proportion it depending on what we're doing. And so a lot of that metering and dispensing for those structural adhesives is 1K and 2K. But it's really for an assembly process, whether you're, you know, gluing a cab together, or you're putting a windshield into something, or those types of things. And a lot of people don't always caulking of any type, right?
One of the coolest examples of a crazy story in that world was with an account manager, and he said, "You see that big barrel over there? It was you know, a huge barrel." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Look at the stuff that's inside of it," and he goes, "You can stand on this.
That's right.
It's so firm, and you won't sink down into it. Maybe over a little bit of time, but you can stand on it and walk around, you know, get up." We have to pump that.
That's right.
That gets pumped in that little hose that goes over to a caulking line where they're actually caulking. And I won't say what it is.
And we save customers a lot of money because they're buying it in bulk and totes or drums, and they're not having to buy it in individual cartridges.
And they just fill up they just refill their cartridges.
Waste and disposal, right? Because if you get rid of all these, you know, sometimes that's hazardous. Sometimes it's very costly to get rid of that waste versus getting rid of a drum that's completely empty, that's been wiped clean as it went through that process. But and a lot of it's like seam seals and things of that nature, which is even ties into coat, because you're putting a seam seal on it, and the reason you're putting a seam seal on is you're trying to catch a raw edge of metal, right? And you're trying to seal that edge before it goes into paint, so that edge is even protected even more from rust and corrosion and things of that nature.
And you know, you're trying to protect also when you're doing the caulking in these certain environments. You're not only sealing that up, but you're trying to prevent things like outgassing for coming through, and hoping that layer. And then, you know, you got to remember, a lot of these caulks and whatnot, they've got to be rated for powder coating. So you got very specialized things that have to be able to hold up the temperature.
And you're inserting foams for molds, and you're inserting foams for different noise reduction and vibration and insulation and different types of things. So you got like impingement mixing there, right? And chemical reaction type mixing, and so there's all different types of things in the assemble and move when it comes from pumping all these different types of liquids to make them make a solution for their assembly process, right? Then you have the simple move, right? Which is, hey, I just got this liquid that's like water.
Yeah.
That I just need to get it out of this 55-gallon drum, and I need to put it in a 5-gallon drum. Yeah. So that's not as bad. It's a more straightforward product. And
or I need to go to 5 different locations in the plant from this one.
Yeah, exactly.
From this one. So.
Yeah. So there's all different types of moving, but that ties into that assembly process and also ties into that coat process. So
let's move into
So we'll transition to coat. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, so how many people total in the move?
Yeah, so three application guys, several technical guys behind that, and we'll get into it briefly, but engineering and Michael John, for example, he ties into all these competencies and really supports us from an automation standpoint, engineering,
project management
as an application specialist as well. But 3 guys covering that footprint. We're really excited about that team. We've got some former account managers, some former managers from our repair department with some of those guys, and we bring all unique types of experience to that group that is very valuable as an application specialist, and we're looking forward to that team continuing to grow.
All right, so let's move on to the final one, which is code, which is I'm part of that team.
Yeah, I was about to say,
I
you
have to
tell
know
me
a
this
little
one,
bit more about that team. What was it? It was a ridiculous number of years that our team represented.
So,
it was like 200 or something.
Absolutely, yeah. So we just did a coat add up, and it was 250 years plus of experience with just the coat team. And if we do that exercise for the tool team, we're talking about similar numbers. And if you look at the guys, we talk about fluid dynamics. You really one of the things that separates AFT or assemble and move, right? That AFT group, those guys are looking at that, and then the coat group, is really viscosity and how you're applying it, right? Are we spraying it? Are we dispensing it? And you're talking about low viscosity versus very high viscosity a lot of times types of materials. And with that being said, a lot of the principles of fluid dynamics apply either way. So we have, even in the AFT group or the assemble move assembly product of moving things from A to B and not necessarily coding something, we have years of experience in that as well. And then the tool team, same thing, so we're very lucky and fortunate, and we try to make sure that we transfer. I have the humble responsibility of leading that team, and one of the things I think about every day is how do I transfer this knowledge continually down to all the folks and not lose that experience, which is a tough thing to do. And our guys, with all the years of experience, do a tremendous job of pouring into other guys, and that's one of the things that makes us unique as well. So.
I think you hit the nail on the head with that, because if you just allow the account managers to not think and to just call,
right,
and have the account man or the application specialist come up with a solution, and that's it.
Yeah.
You're gaining really nothing.
That's right.
You might get the sale, but you're not gaining anything. I think to give them credit, our account managers do a great job in general of learning, and I think the application specialists and technical specialists do a good job training.
Absolutely.
So that they're sending that information on, and so every time that account manager goes back out on their own, they're fighting the fight on the street every day, going out there to gain the business and developing those relationships. So the more they know and the more they build up, it's a teacher-student ratio that becomes a partnership over time and a team gel.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, we'd be remiss. If we didn't talk about the account manager specialist relationship. Yep. And Dan has his analogy of the baseball, and I won't go into the pitching analogy, right? But every day, the best time and the most opportune time to learn is in the field, right in front of the customer, right after that call, right before that call, that alongside each other, windshield time, things of that nature. Yep. And that's what I think we have, where we have a unique situation where we have these years of experience pouring into sometimes guys that have years of experience and they're just learning a little bit more.
That's right.
They're grabbing this nugget or this nugget, and then we got some guys that are brand new and they're learning everything from these guys and anywhere in between, right? So, but to talk a little bit more about the coat team, we've got. Man, we've moved some folks around and we just added some folks because it's ever changing to make sure that we take care of our customers. But I believe we've got yourself that kind of covers the whole footprint, and then we've got really 3 folks that are primarily focused on the application equipment.
Yeah.
And then we've got 2 guys that are kind of hybrids. And then we've got one other. Then we've got 2 guys that are really focused on the whole system, where they're the conveyors, the wash systems, and when I say hybrids, the hybrids that we have, they have experience in both application equipment and they have experience in the systems where we're talking about boost ovens, conveyors, wash systems, things of that nature. So they kind of do a dual role for us in some places, depending on the geography. But quite an impressive team, and then of course Travis is looking at all the filters and helping with booth accessories, whether it's paper or clear lenses or floor paper or filters, right?
Yep.
So it's a team that's again well experienced, and it's where we kind of grew up in the industry, and we have a lot of value to add, and that's one thing that I think we want to talk about a little bit, because we'd be remiss. Like, we have a lot of good manufacturers, and we wouldn't be where we were without manufacturers, because we manufacture solutions, but we don't generally manufacture product.
We're a distributor.
We're a distributor, right? And so we do box in, box out, but we're only as good as our manufacturers, and we have a lot of good manufacturers, but we want to be a good partner to our manufacturers, and by doing that, we have to be an extension for them. We have to replicate. They have reps, of course, but we want to replicate that, and that's really, in a nutshell, if you know what a manufacturer's rep role is, that's what we try to create in our specialists, like Travis and like all the guys we've been talking about, because that's how we replicate those efforts, and that's how we scale our business. Right.
You also put some control on things, whereas I represent filters. I could go out and I could buy from 50 different vendors easily and get carried away, but being able to bring it in and focus and develop that relationship, where, because it's my competency, I have time to develop that relationship with those vendors and work on those products. Yeah. If it was just spread out all over the account manager, you would have traction somewhere and you would have no traction elsewhere.
Yeah, we create the way I kind of word that, and you're exactly right, Travis, the way I kind of word that is we create champions, right? And we develop those relationships, which I think is important, right? Yeah. Because when we develop those relationships, it's more than selling a product. You have a partner, you have someone that you know is in the trenches with you, whether it's that application specialist or that manufacturer, and I think that's some of the secret sauce, right?
Yep.
So, but anyway,
Kevin, I know you have a meeting you have to go to here pretty soon.
Right. So,
I want to thank you very much for joining me today. Yeah. I did want to touch on a couple other things, but maybe you can knock them out in 30 seconds.
Yeah, sure.
Extensions of these teams are like project management.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't forget a lot of the guys that are involved pre-sale and post-sale, right?
They're involved.
That are involved in all those processes, right? So the application specialist is, like I said, out there in the field day to day. Some of the technical guys are a little bit removed. They may be back in the labs. They may be doing trainings. They may be doing installations as well. So they're kind of one step removed. And then you've got a whole engineering team we have, which we're very excited about. I mean, we got a lot of young guys that have great ideas and not up to the challenge for whatever we're doing. And then we've got project management. I mean, what distributor has project management? That's why we're unique, right? Yeah. I mean, we've got I think it's now 4 or 5 folks that are solely dedicated to making sure when you purchase from us, you purchased a solution, and they're making sure that solution is installed in a timely manner. Everything is pulled together nicely. Deliveries are scheduled, all those things, and they're working with our account managers, our specialists, and do a tremendous job for us. Those we've got more layers after the sale, right? Field service and repair, and those are the things that's how we want to build lasting relationships in our community in our manufacturing community. And the only way we do that is be there from the very beginning and be there to the very end.
That's right.
And those layers of support is what allows us to do that. Not everybody has that. So
perfect.
So
Kevin,
yep.
Thank you very much for joining me
Absolutely,
today.
man. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate your support all the time.
So, and you get an A. So
is it a raise?
Yeah, you made it easy on me. So
is it a raise? All right. If you have any questions, 1-800-334-1001. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Power Airwaves. Again, thank you to Kevin. www.airpower-usa.com for everything AirPower. If you want to shop right now, shop.airpower-usa.com. Find us on all your all the social media channels, and airpowerlive.com. Tons of training videos. So we appreciate it. And I have to say one thing before I close out here. So thank you to Eddie Kirkus and MTPA for my Christmas mug that I'm actually getting to use online. I told them I would say thank you. And we're going to close it out saying what I always say: manufacture it a great day.
Thank you for joining the AirPower Airwaves podcast. AirPower Airwaves is a production of AirPower Inc. and AirPower Live Studios and is hosted by Travis Stirewalt. For more information, please visit airpowerairwaves.com. For more information on all of our products, brands, and manufacturing solutions, please visit airpower-usa.com. If you have any questions or need product support, please contact AirPower at 1-800-334-1001.